amazing. You know, Wyclef is a, everybody. He's a living legend, and yeah, he's a really example for all of us. Like, he's still relevant, and he gives us some amazing advices. And yes, he's sharing and he's talking from the bottom of his heart. So I love him, and yeah, God bless him, and God bless you all. I love Jamaica.
I love Jamaica too. This is awesome. Again, Bulby, welcome. Can you take a seat, please? Thank you. All persons who are downstairs who want to make it for this panel, can you make your way up the stairs now, please? And I love it that all my people that are in here are now seated. We're going into a panel that we call CCPR, which is of copyright, contracts, publishing, and royalties. CCPR is of CCPR is of You see how easy we made it for you to remember? Come on now. This is the bright section. So CCPR is Oh, so it's up there now. so so let us welcome to the stage. We ask first Vivian Barclay. She's from Warner Chappell Music. Viv, round of applause for Vivian Barclay. And then we also have Mark Cyrus, Master Room. He's from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, since this is Island Music Conference. And then we have Eddie Forcell out of Prescription Songs A&R. Let's welcome Eddie Forcell. And then we have Lily Claire Bellamy from Jaipo. And then this panel is hosted by attorney at law and grandson of Denroy Morgan, Jabari Shaw.
Greetings. Welcome. I want to ask one thing really quick. If everybody just brings it in, if you're sitting up top, come a little bit closer. We want to really embrace y'all. If I can't see you, the lights are in our eyes, so I just want to make sure that we're as close as possible. About to have a real conversation here. Thank you. All right, so I'm Jabari Shaw. I'm the host today. I'm an associate attorney at a law firm in Columbus, Ohio. I work in the Cincinnati office called Vorey, Sater, Seymour, and Pease. My practice is intellectual property and entertainment. I'm the grandson of Denroy Morgan. Morgan Heritage is my family, and I'm glad to be back on the island for the Island Music Conference. We're going to start off by just jumping in, going through our panelists. They're going to share a little bit about who they are and what they do, and then we'll get into the copyrights, contracts, publishing, and royalties. Vivian, start us off.
Hi, I'm Vivian Barclay, originally from Mobay, live in Toronto, currently the managing director of Warner Chappell Music in Toronto, and the co-founder of Advance, which is the organization working to make sure Black people working in the music business are treated well and fairly, similar to other talents design. And I've been at this for a very long time, and currently on the island work with people like Bulby, Sly and Robbie, just signed the estate of Garnet Silk, so working with their family, which I really, really love and appreciate, and amongst others, so which we'll get into.
Greetings, Jamaica. Mark Cyrus from Master Room Music, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I'm a music publisher, but I'm a trained audio engineer and producer. So my background was heavily into production in the UK. Moved back to the Caribbean in the year 2000, opened a recording studio. And in the past 10 years, I've been running Master Room Music, and I have some fantastic, talented writers. There's some right here in the back from St. Vincent. We work with Caribbean artists from Trinidad, St. Lucia. We actually look at catalogs and take care of catalogs as far as we're India, Costa Rica, and we're heavily into sync and places. You've heard a whole panel before us about sync, and placing songs for opportunities in movies, etc. So I'm happy to be here with this esteemed panel. Eddie.
What's good, y'all? I'm Eddie Forcell, originally from one of the greatest cities in the world, New York City, but love this city as well and happy to be here. At the moment, I am an A&R exec at Prescription Songs. For those of you who don't know what Prescription is, it's basically legendary Dr. Luke's publishing company based in LA, based in Nashville as well. I also, for the last couple of years, have A&R'd for Mary J. Blige, specifically this last project, Good Morning Gorgeous, which we went to the Grammys with, which we're super happy about. And I also A&R and manage an upcoming R&B artist by the name of Joyce Rice, based in San Diego. So happy to be here with all of y'all.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lily Claire Bellamy. I'm the Executive Director of the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, which is an agency of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. We're responsible for the registration of all intellectual property rights in Jamaica. And also we register rights from persons outside of Jamaica who would like to have their works protected here in Jamaica. And I'm also an attorney at law.
Big up Jaipo. All right, so we're going to start with contracts. It's not going to be long at all. Got a little exercise for us to do. So if you know what a contract is, just raise your hand for me and keep it up. Put them high, put them high. The light is bright. All right. How many of you guys have read a contract in here? Keep them up. If you've never read a contract, your hand should be down right now. All right. How many of you guys understand everything that's in a contract? All right, who's in the back with the, oh, it went down. Right there. All right, manager, attorney, what are you? Oh, he put it down. There we go, over there. As you can see, those with the knowledge of everything to understand in contracts is very, very small. Get an attorney. Simple as that. Get counsel. Don't risk it. This is the beginning of your career. This is the beginning of something that's going to provide money for you. You should probably get counsel. Make sure you understand what's in those documents, because once it's signed, we are not magicians, and I can't make it disappear. If you're in there for 5 years, you're in there for 5. Unless you got a bunch of money, you can get yourself out or something happens. So that's it on contracts.
But also we should say, like we were talking about this backstage, it isn't so much as just get an attorney. You need to get an attorney, but I also think what happens a lot in the relationship with an attorney is people don't understand what they're reading, and instead of using that relationship with the attorney to gain knowledge and understand for yourself, they just allow someone to say or change things and go, yeah, no, it's right, sign at the bottom. Really, at the end of the day, there is no stupid question. If you don't know, you just don't know. It doesn't make you stupid. What you need to do when you're having these relationships with attorneys or anybody who's knowledgeable about contracts is to ask the question of something that doesn't make sense to you. Do not walk away still not understanding what it is you've signed, because we have all of us that work with contracts and sign deals with people have all had the conversation after the fact when you point out the basics in a contract and they say, well, I never understand that. And I'm always flabbergasted that they did actually have an attorney. So just having an attorney clearly doesn't only solve the problem. You also need to ask the questions and make sure you're educated about what it is you actually signed. So that's how we'll bookend that one.
Experienced counsel that knows what they're talking about, that does this. Do not get a real estate attorney to do entertainment.
Yeah, stop that, please.
I want to bounce a question over to Lily Claire. What is a copyright?
So in Jamaica, we deal with copyrights under legislation. So there's a thing called the Copyright Act. The Copyright Act tells you everything you need to know about copyright. And as was mentioned by Vivian and Jabari, the Intellectual Property Office can walk you through that Copyright Act if you don't understand it. And we don't charge you. And the person who's going to walk you through that Copyright Act is an attorney at law who understands what is in the Copyright Act. There are 2 basic rights that you get in Jamaica and in most Commonwealth jurisdictions when you have copyright. You get an economic right and you get a moral right. I thought I was about to launch into teacher mode, but I won't. So with your moral right, it's a right to be associated with what you have created. So you may create something that nobody likes, but nobody has a right to change what you have created. It is perfect, irrespective of what anybody feels about it. It is perfect. You might not be able to sell it, but it is perfect. So you have the right to not have your work changed or altered in any way. What I always like to share with people is intellectual property rights reflect a mirror of real property rights. So if you rent a property from someone and you do any damage, the landlord is going to come to you at the end and say, you owe me money, okay? It's called waste. So anything that if you rent a flat and they've painted it in the most horrible color and you change it and you have improved the value of the property, the landlord is going to charge you because as far as he is concerned, you have destroyed his property because you made it more attractive in your eyes, but you have done something you had no right to do. In the same way with copyright, you've written your song and you think it's the best song ever, okay? Nobody can compare to this work. It's better than any work that has ever been created. Jabari gets it. He's your attorney. Jabari says, you know, I don't see how you could think that Eddie rhymes with Lily Claire. There's no rhyme in there. It makes no sense. That is stupid. What you should do is, Jabari wouldn't say that. Jabari would say, you need to consider changing it. He can't tell you that if he's your attorney. That's not his role, okay? So once you've created your work, that's it. You've finished creating your work, you write your name, and you write the date you created the work, and that's it. You put the letter C with a circle around it, your copyright automatically comes into existence. You don't need to pay anybody any money. Your copyright automatically exists once you've done that. Your economic right comes into play when you start to earn from your work. And this is where now, to get someone how many of you were here on the first day when Shaggy spoke? Remember what he said at the end when he spoke about you need to surround yourselves with professionals? That's what you need to do. So you need somebody a competent professional, okay? So as Jabari said, you don't go to a real estate attorney for copyright because they don't know. Just as if you're criminally charged, you wouldn't go to a real estate attorney, right? So your music is your life. What you are creating is your life, so you need to go to somebody who understands the subject. Don't just go to anybody who says, oh, I'm an attorney at law. Big deal. You need to go to an attorney at law who understands copyright. So you have your economic rights and you have your moral rights. In our jurisdiction, you can sign away your economic rights, which is why you need somebody who understands a contract, because the movement of a comma, a full stop, and a semicolon changes everything that is in a contract. Just the movement of that comma. And that's why the attorney went to school to learn the significance of the movement of that comma. So this is your life. In the Jamaican jurisdiction, you can pass on your copyright. You can have a will. And everybody knows the famous cases of Jamaican musicians who have died intestate, which means they've died without a will. And then everybody suddenly is a member of that person's family. Everybody suddenly has a right to that person's work, and that takes an awful long time to sort out.
I just got Garnet out of this. Literally, I spent years helping the family, and we just officially got Garnet where his family is in charge of his copyright a year and a half ago. You know when the man dead.
How long ago did Garnet Silk pass away?
A long time.
A long time.
Yo, let me just say something.
Make a will.
Let me just say something too, at the same time. Not because they're attorneys, this is not a shameless plug for when they go just hire them. You know, because
Jaipo
when they
is
say
free.
pros, they're pros. This is why it was so good what you said. I asked them how much I want to read the contract. All right, everybody can read it, but who understands it?
Understands it. Yeah.
Because you don't understand that legal jarbish. You know what I mean? You don't, it's not. But your attorney, well, what they'll do, they'll point out your deal points. And they'll discuss the deal points of that particular deal, and then you go through it with them. Now, you guys must agree, there is attorneys, but there's also good attorneys.
Yes.
And there is bad attorneys. Yeah, because a man say liar, means say him is good liar.
No.
He might be bad liar, but some people go a doctor, and just because doctor in front of your name, you go take any pill in give you. That no mean him a good doctor. Him just named doctor. You have good doctors, you have bad. You got good attorneys, you have bad. How do you get yourself good attorneys? It's called due diligence. Yeah. It's called you researching your lawyers and it's a great indication is who they have in their roster. If they have prominent artists on their rosters, chances are, they're a good attorney. And if they've been in it for a long time, you know what I mean? You got to also be careful because attorneys can sometimes be in bed with the record company. You know what I'm talking about, Jabari, right?
That I do.
Because when I say in bed with the record companies could also be making side deals with the attorney to make sure you, the artist, go in favor. I've been a victim of that my damn self. And that attorney down the line ended up being disbarred, not through mine, but he just got comfortable doing it many times, right? So you got to be careful. So do your research, do your due diligence. Sorry, but I just have to interject this all. Yeah?
And just to follow up on the point that Shaggy made, which is why I mentioned the government of Jamaica should be commended for the fact that there is an intellectual property office where anybody can walk through the door and you can speak to an attorney and they will give you, we can't give you advice, but we will give, no, we can't because you're not retaining us as counsel. But what we give you is valid information. We don't give advice. You go to him, you retain him, he gives you advice. I can't give you advice. You're not retaining me, but I'm giving you information. Figure out what I'm saying. So I'm giving you the information you need, just as if you went.
Give you off the record advice.
Well, the information could be a synonym for something else, all right? So we give you the information, but we can't charge you because it's a service that's provided by the government. But it's in recognition of the fact that we are one of the most creative people in the whole world. I'm sorry, we are. It's just a reality. And so you have a government agency where you can come in and somebody will walk you through. The other thing is that the Bar Association of Jamaica has a roster. There's an intellectual property committee. And I remember once when there was an issue with one of our artists who somebody more than sampled his work, and they had an out-of-court settlement. The case happened a few years back. Everybody in here know that case, remember? Nobody?
I don't know which case it is, but I have had a particular case myself, so go ahead.
Yeah, anyway, so we were at that meeting with the attorneys who were representing the Jamaican, and I said, yeah, it's fine for all of you to talk. When you have a fledgling artist, they can't afford to retain you and come to you, so how are they going to get the advice from you? And they said, okay, we'll do it for free. I said, fine. So I went and I got everybody's name and I wrote it down. And I said, when anybody comes to Jaipo and they need advice, I'm sending them to you. So a man came one day. He needed advice because he was signed on to something he should not have signed on to. So I picked up the phone and I called and I said, remember when you told me that you would do pro bono work? I have a gentleman here in my office. I'm sending him to you. Don't give me your word if you don't mean it. So I sent the man to them. And then the man came back. I said, did they help you? He said, yes. I said, cool, thank you. So I called and said, thanks. So you have attorneys in Jamaica who will give assistance, right? But if you are benefiting from your economic right of your copyright, they're not going to give you free, okay? But
yeah. And one of the things that I want to back up, because Lily Claire said something very important. You can give that right away. And it's through contract. And I think it's a good segue into why we're here today to talk about publishing and royalties.
But let's just stick one pin, because you also, Lily Claire also said something that I think I'll probably not go over people's head, but it's a question we get most often. When we're in jurisdictions that are automatic, copyright is automatic upon creation and fixation. And so I like to stick a pin on these little points about what that means in reality, right? So everybody's like, oh, I'm going to send the thing to myself in an envelope and did it, all these kind of crazy things that they all talk about, right? The fixation thing is the important part, people. Now, back in the day, that meant that, yes, so we were probably writing something on paper, you have, you know, sheet music, you have all these kind of things. We're in the digital world now. Our fixation is the digital file, right? But to Lil Claire's point, the info has to go with it. Shaggy talked about it before, about split sheets, you know who's in the room. But what it also means is you can't copyright an idea. So if all of us are sitting here right now, and we say, you know, wouldn't it be great if we had this machine that counted down while we're talking, and it's going to have a green light to show us, and da-da-da-da-da. And we're like, yeah, man, that sounds cool, that sounds cool. And four of us decide to go get some rum and coconut, and Jabari decide to go out and actually fix what the idea was. Jabari owned that copyright. Similarly to what Shaggy was saying is, if you're in a room, and especially today where a lot of times people go by what we used to refer to as a Nashville method, where 5 of us in the room, 5 of us split the song, you can have somebody sit down in a corner, you know, literally sit down in a corner, if that's the kind of room you're in, if that's the decision that was made at the top of the thing about how we're going to deal with this, and one guy sit down in a corner and pick him nose the whole day, pick nose guy own piece of your song. So a lot of times people ask those questions and they hear that concept of automatic upon fixation, but they don't really understand what that means. So 2 things come out of that. One, make sure it's actually in a form, especially since we're in the digital world, that qualifies as fixation, meaning you have a demo, you have something, right? And the info that goes along with that, right? And that you understand that. We're going to talk about more about that, but I just wanted to stick up. Don't send things to yourself in the mail. Have you ever met a 13-year-old girl? Everybody know how to open an envelope and close it back with a me.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from, but
It goes on for 200 years.
yeah, like
And
it's been around.
stop
but-
it. I have to defend that because that still works. The purpose of sending it back, the purpose of sending it back to yourself is not about the copyright. That's about the evidence. So
Yes,
it's the
it is.
date of it. So if you
Paper trail.
exactly,
Big
and
liar,
it's the
big
date,
liar, big liar.
and it's the date. The significance is the date.
Absolutely.
Because if Jabari creates something today, the same thing you spoke about, Vivian, he created it today, but unbeknownst to all of you, I had created it and I had sent it back to myself. But I didn't want to tell you because I earned a bag of money and I don't want to share it. So
The problem
the
is in
copyright would
today's
have been
world, though.
mine, it wouldn't be Jabari's. No, it's the evidence.
Yeah,
He's being
no,
able
I
to
understand that,
prove.
but in today's world of how a lot of people are working, and especially in these genres of music here, and Ed can talk about it, then we're talking about like hip hop, dancehall, whatever, where you have a song started one day and like that song could change. You know, too, you have a studio 50 million times before it gets to the final form. You also have to think about how you deal with it digitally because it is different in the world that we're working in now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to jump into the publishing side.
No, I have one question. For
Psych.
Lily Clear. What year was the copyright law created here for Jamaica?
The most recent one we have is a 1993 one that has 2015 amendments. The 2015 amendments.
So the first copyright law was what year? You don't know?
Oh God, it was long ago, Shaggy, because remember we were a colony of the UK.
Right.
So they were making sure that they protected what they had. Because we had an 1857 Patent Act. So the copyright was from way back.
So the stories are the nightmare stories of so many artists signing away their intellectual
They shouldn't
properties
have.
from back in those days that they weren't protected because there was not a local copyright law to protect them, right?
No, no. They lost their rights.
They lost
because
it, right.
They lost their rights because they signed away their rights. It wasn't that there was no copyright act because remember, you know, we were a colony of the
So
UK.
basically they would have signed it for £2,000.
Yes, or you
Okay.
signed it away for a patty.
So there was a story. Hold on a minute. I'm glad you put it up. There was a story was told to me by a great record executive by the name of Ken Berry. Ken Berry was one of the founders of Virgin Record. He's actually the guy that signed me to Virgin. And he told me a story that he used to be in Skyline and Chris Blackwell used to be at Pegasus. Now, who knows where Skyline is? That is where Courtleys is now. That used to be called Skyline. You're Michigan, I said, remember walk from Pegasus to Skyline? Exactly. And they would sign artists' intellectual properties and rights for as little as £2,000 and owned all of that because that was just it. So now be careful when you go for the money, right? And don't realize that when you really are selling yourself and give on yourself, right? Sometimes it's not just the money. Sometimes it's the ownership of what you have that will mature into something that is way more tangible down the line. So just keep that in mind. Sorry again.
All right. So.
Sorry, one point since you're going
Oh, my days.
I'm sorry. Just one more point I want to make because at the end of the day, and I use this, unfortunately, those of you who are here from the U.S. know about the Innocence Project. There are lots of people who are incarcerated who should not be incarcerated. Yep. And there are a lot of people walking around who should be incarcerated. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to the evidence and who can prove, right? So, in response to that, and for those of you in the room who are Jamaicans, you know that everybody in Jamaica wants a piece of paper to show that they have something. So when people call our office and we tell them about what Vivian said, which is a poor man's copyright, the next response is, that's all? I don't have to do anything else? We say, no, you don't. Your copyright is automatic once it's in a tangible format. What we did was, in response to everybody wanting something to prove that they own, we created a voluntary registration for copyright. So we give you a certificate. So you go before a justice of the peace in Jamaica, you swear to the fact that you are the owner or the author of a particular work, and then we give you a certificate. So you have that certificate. So if somebody says they created a work, you can say, no, when you go to court, you don't have to worry about your envelope that came through registered mail. You have your certificate, which you had already given a voluntary declaration in front of a justice of the peace. And there's a charge if you have voluntarily declared and it's not truthful. So you have that certificate to say that you created the work on a particular day. So there's also that facility that is available. So I had to say that so my copyright manager don't kill me. Okay, thanks.
All right, Eddie and Mark, break us down with what actual publishing is.
Well, before we get to that, right, I just want to ask in this audience, how many producers are in here, music producers? You put your hand up. How many lyricists are in here? How many songwriters in here? Why the producers didn't put back up their hand? There's a total misconception in the Caribbean where there's this, and I see it up to today, where people are crediting themselves as the writer, and then there's the producer. Now, Mr. Producer, you're a writer too. And actually, right credit on YouTube, especially, is produced by Eddie. If Eddie did the composition, the beats and everything, composed by Eddie, lyrics by Vivian, if she did all the lyrics, and that's how it should be done. But
here's the add-on question.
Right, go ahead.
So, all the people who are songwriters, using this definition, whether you write the lyric, the song, whatever, all the songwriters put up your hand. All the publishers put up their hand. You're incorrect. Anybody that writes a song, a half of that share is publishing. And until you decide to give it away, sell it away, trade it for a banana or a patty, which I don't advise you do, whatever way you choose to part with some bit of your publishing, you are a publisher until that happens. So every single songwriter in here is a publisher. You need to start looking at your work from that perspective. Not just, I'm a songwriter, I'm a producer. Every songwriter is also a publisher until you choose to do something, your choice, with the piece that is the publishing.
Right, amen. So just continuing, we're all here at this conference for one thing. No, we're here to learn, but because of one thing, the song, right? Songs are the root of the reason why we're at this music conference. Everybody in this room, I guess, has some involvement in songs. Now, I don't understand why it's become such a dirty word, contract. Why is like agreeing to something that you verbally agree on paper becomes such a negative? I think it should be a positive, right? So the other question I was going to ask, with the producers and the songwriters, how many of you have done a split sheet? Okay, that's this side here. But how many of you have done the split sheet straight after you finish writing the song? Right, not many, right? And this is where the confusion happens, and where publishing and song splits and ownership gets into the hands of the lawyer, who then takes all the money and charges you all that money for sorting out your chaos, which you could have sorted out by one conversation and one little piece of paper. So basically the split sheet really has on it who's written the song, the date it's written, the name of the song, and if you are published by someone, the publishing information of that publisher, and also your PRO, your performance rights organization, should be on there. It's a standard thing that we do when we do songwriting camps, when we do sessions for, if we're doing a pitch for a label or for a movie, we're writing something, we do split sheets with our writers. There are online portals where you could do that. It doesn't have to be a piece of paper.
You can just email each other. Everybody
You can
in the
also
room
email
just
each other.
Email each other.
And there's Session Studio I found to be very user-friendly. If you could just check it on your phone, Session Studio. And you could download the app, easy. You put the name of the song in, you put all the splits of the songs in there, your names, and the email flies off to the other person to invite them to agree, and then that's legally acceptable now. So I just thought I'll deal with the song and the songwriting space before we get to publishing.
No, absolutely.
I actually want to add to that too. There's like a common thing that goes on in the difference between a lot of hip hop works and pop works. So I've only been at Prescription for maybe like 3 years, but before then, obviously, I said I was working with Marion. The way hip hop people do splits usually is that it's usually split 50 to the producer, to your point of like, and then 50 to the writers, whoever are handling the lyrics of the, but when I went to Prescription, it was like a completely new world because they usually, most of the time, deal with it like how they deal in Nashville, where it's like, it's just who's in the room. And they divvy it by like, it's not just 50% to the producer, it's like who all contributed to it. And a lot of times they'll divvy it out evenly. So it was a new world to like kind of like explore.
And the thing you should take away from this part of the conversation, the original question, what is publishing? A publisher deals with songwriters and songs, bottom line. That is what we do. We're in the business of songwriters and songs from beginning to end. So someone like me, and you know, I deal with everything from signing an artist all the way to ingesting their songs and their song information in order to help them get into other rooms, maybe pitch it to other people, to registering the song, to collecting the money, to paying them back out. Because we're not hobbyists. We're in the music business. We're not in the music hobby business. You can be in the music hobby business. That's lovely. But if you claim you're in the music business, at some point you want to get the money back, right? That you need to live off of what it is you're doing. That's called the music business for a reason. But to just tap on to what you guys were saying about the splits and what Shaggy referred to earlier and what he was talking about, I would say to you that it's not a dirty thing. Everybody has a different point of view on this thing. Some people don't like to talk about the business and the splits very early in the creative process because they believe it dampens the creative process. And I understand that to a point. But and that's why a lot of times I like writers to meet socially before they get into a working situation, so they can have some of these conversations. And what I ask my writers to do all the time is to say, look, if you're in a camp situation, it's usually the decision is made for you. If you're in a song camp, it's usually even split, we move on with our lives. As he just pointed out, there's differences in genres. I've had people who literally count words. I do not suggest that, by the way. That's a stupid way to go about it. Don't count words. There's also people who will say, there are 5 of us here, or 4 of us in a band, and or 5 of us in a band, and we're going to split it even Steven, because the person who might actually write the majority of the song in a band may not be the hot boy on the guitar that the girls actually came to see. So when the hot boy and the guitar don't have any shares, and he's still driving a whoop-tee Honda, but the guy who actually wrote the song have the BMW and the house in the Caribbean, at some point this now work out for band harmony. Seen? So y'all need to sort out the band harmony situation. But all of that is to say, to what they were saying is, it's good to have a conversation to say, how do you do what you do? I have writers who do even splits. I have writers that count words. I have writers that say, if I write a chorus, it's this. If I write a bridge, it's this. If I write a verse, it's this. You need to understand, or at least articulate to other people how you work, so that when the process done and the song actually done 10 months later, or whenever it is, there's no confusion when you say, but no, I think some of my piece were 25%. Right? Or me do the whole music. Nowadays, there are a lot of producers that have tons of mini producers underneath them. Well, what is that worth? Chances are they have their own little discussion going on at the side, right? So the bottom line is there's an articulation that needs to happen amongst creative people that you should not be afraid of in dealing with your business. Because can I tell you something? The time to discuss splits is not when it is on the chart. I one time spent 6 weeks with a group of people that call themselves family. We're down for each other. Over 1.67% of the song. And they left me as their publisher to try and sort it out, because nobody never want to argue with each other because they're family. The time to talk about this stuff is not when it is on the chart. Trust me when I tell you.
Good point, for sure.
It just, can I say the show of hands, those of you who know what publishing is? Can I say the show of hands, those of you who know how it works?
They don't. That's why we're here.
All right. So explaining it on a level for them on what it is.
Okay.
The breakdown of the percentages of it.
Okay.
But what they don't understand is, like, for instance, you just said something when you said, let me see, writers and producers didn't put their hands up. The music part of it is also writing.
Yes.
So
I'm going to break it down.
It's split in 2 ways. There's lyrics and there's writing.
Yes.
And I wanted to explain to him the publisher share also. So please
so
explain.
Every song, let's just work with 100% because it's just going to make our life easy, right? Let's just say this is a song that you want to write. That never happens in the world anymore. Collaboration is the key. But let's just, for the sake of argument, say it's a 100% song. In that 100% song, a half of that song is writing and a half of that song is publishing. So 50% will be the writer share, which could include
the writing is still publishing too.
Yes. Let me finish, please.
You said the music part is publishing.
No,
so you have to make that clear.
No. Right. Let me finish. Just let me finish. Half the share, half the 100% is writer share. That writer share could be made up of music, lyrics, production, whatever. Half of that song is the publishing share. So Vivian Barkley as writer, Vivian Barkley as publisher. That's why I said to you how many of you in here are publishing, right? That's one version of the song. Again, half the song is writing, lyrics, half the song is music, composition, right? Now there are some people, and I don't want to confuse anybody on this, I'm going to tell you what it is technically, and I'm going to tell you how people actually functionally do it, especially in the world of hip-hop and dancehall a lot. You have the producer that comes in who composed the music. He has his 50%. And at the top, you have what we refer to as the top line, melody and lyrics. A lot of times in today's world, people don't choose to consider the melody a part of the music. They just say, here's the producer, you take your 50%. I did the writer, you take your 50%. Now, there are some people out there who are professional top liners, and they're not going to roll with that. They know that their melody is part of the music, so they're going to start divvying it up the way Ed was talking about. But in a simplistic world, a song is half writing, half music, half writing, half publishing. And I will go one step further because I know this is one of your questions, and this is the only way I've found the easy way to describe a publishing relationship, especially where an ownership is involved. Let's say I have a house, and I have 3 apartments in the house. One big one at the top, and 2 smaller ones at the bottom, 50-50, but we divided it into 3. You, as the house owner, decide to sell me one of the small apartments, AKA 25% of the song. I, as the new owner of the small apartment, I manage the whole house full of apartments. So the writer still has their 50% writer share, they have 25% of the publishing share, and you have now sold me another 25% of the publishing over here, which is My house now, I own it, and hopefully I gave you money for that. This is not party money. If you go and sell something to somebody, some money actually need to be attached. So I'm going to buy this apartment, and I'm going to manage the whole house.
What happens?
Do you understand?
What happens if you don't manage the house?
It's not explained to them. Can understand. That's.
Do you understand?
I'm starting it. I'm starting it, Shaggy. This is complicated. This is why we're going to ask questions,
all right.
and we're going to get to it.
Okay.
And Ed is about to ask a
No, but I
clarification
tried it that
question.
time, so that's why I want.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. I think this might be a little bit easier. Let's put the questions out to the audience.
Definitely.
that
And then you
guys can
ask
just
us to
ask
clarify
us.
for you.
I wanted to
That's
ask.
What you say,
yeah,
Spice?
All right, listen. What may I say to him?
No, make Spice ask the question. Make Spice ask the question.
Let me tell you exactly. What Spice is asking is what I'm saying to you. You guys are very educated people, right? When me I try to make it, to break it down to them, to simplify it. For you, you understand it inside and out. To break it down to what publishing and how it operates, right? You have to break it down so people can understand. What you just said, them confused. Them not under. He might ask which house.
So Spice want to ask the question.
He might ask what kind of house and which house. You understand what I say?
Agree with you.
Break it down for me,
No,
please.
wait. Spice asking
Christian,
a question.
come-
Mark.
come here.
Spice is asking a
Spice
question.
want to ask a question.
Okay, come here.
Yes, ma'am. Spice, ask. Go
Is the
ahead.
mic on?
Yes, ma'am. You're on. You're on. Grace.
No, we were over here. Icon and I, we were over here trying to listen and trying to figure out the 25% are UFA house and whatever. So we were
Right.
making joke of it. But the truth question is, we want you to talk to us like we don't know anything at all about publishing and start
Right.
over from top, right?
There you go. That's why.
And when you
Okay.
break down the percentage, you say 50% is for the writer and 50% is for
The publishing.
the publishing. However, we are looking at it and not the whole thing are publishing, the whole 100% are publishing. So when you say 50% for the writer and 50% are publishing, we get confused. You throw us off because it's like in our head, the whole 100% are publishing. And again, sometimes when you say 50% are for the writer and the other percent are for the publishing, when you get 50%, what if after 5 hours we write it? We are looking at it like 100%. So it's like,
Right,
we
so
want you
in
go
that-
down to the nitty gritty,
right.
like we start over from scratch.
Right.
do it
So
from
Grace,
scratch.
that's why
We should
Grace.
separate it. There's a writer share.
Yeah,
and
there's a writer share and a
publisher
publishing
That's
share.
the part I
So
want to
that's
say.
right.
Writer
Right.
share,
Writer
publisher
share and a
share.
publishing
Writer
share.
share.
Publishing.
So what I
Publisher
was saying to you is because I didn't want to get confusing, I would say let's just act like there's one writer. But if you had 5 writers, the publishing share would be split in 5. And the writer share would be split in 5. If you have 4 writers, it's 4. If you have 3 writers, it's 3. But for the sake of ease, I was just speaking about it as one writer. So you have one writer, it's 100%. Half of it is the writer share, half of it is the publishing share.
Okay, Vivian, can we do a practical session here?
Yes, let's do a practical.
I want my writer to come down. Spice, if you could come. Shaggy, come, please.
We're going to do a
We're
practical.
going to do a practical thing.
He's going to
here
break it down
now. Let's break
person
it.
by person.
Break
Watch.
it down. We have the lawyer. We have the publisher.
I'll correct it if
Who
it's
wants
wrong.
to be the producer? Who's the producer? No, you're writer too. You're top liner because you was talking about 5. Who's the... Right.
There we go.
Okay. Session done. Right? He's the producer. He made the beat. And for this session, he's the musician also. He played the music in it. Right?
You know why you said that? Explain why you said that.
The reason why I say that, because producer could just be doing the beat, and then he has hired musicians who compose.
There you go. It's two
But-
different things.
but-
Not because you hear producer does not mean he has to do the beat. Quincy Jones never did
Never
a beat.
made a beat in his life.
But he's the producer.
Correct.
You have to make that clear. The guy who does session musicians, they are not the producers, right? They fall in the direction of the producer. Understand that? So that's why he said that.
Right.
Clear. We're just trying to make it
And-
clear.
Well, in this case, we're saying producer that write
And
music.
to add to that, Shaggy, there's work for hire.
Oh, it's all right. It's all
hire,
good.
yes.
By
No, no,
contract.
Mark.
But wait,
No, no, go there right now.
Let the man just come. Let him just do it now.
Allow me, let me finish. Okay. Costi decided he have a wicked beat and music there, and you know, boy, this is good for Spice and Shaggy and the young youth from St. Vincent to jump on. So all of them came in the studio, and he's playing the beats, and Shaggy writing his thing, you're doing your dub, he's writing his guitar parts and so on. and writing his lyrics. So there's now 3 writers doing the top line. So you did no music, right? You didn't do any composition. No, you write the lyrics. You write the lyrics, but you didn't write the musical part of it. He wrote the musical part of it. So, right, now, like exactly what Eddie said, in some scenarios, like in different parts of the world, the producer will hold on to his 50% and that's it. And you all have to split up the other 50 between 3 of you.
Which is 16.66.
16.66, and somebody has to get 7.
Yeah, well, somebody gets 7.
But
you know.
in the professional practice, what they do now is, if 4 of us in a room, the 4 of us gonna split it 25, 25, 25.
Sometimes.
That's how you do it. Right? No, it gets very complicated when, now, Shaggy has a publisher. He has a publisher. So how do we fill out that split sheet is the question, right?
Well, what scenario are we going? Are we going with 50% and 16.66?
16,
or are we going 25, 25,
No, we're going
25?
to 25, 25. We're going to make it really easy for everybody. So everybody's 25, 25, 25. 4 quarters. But the truth of the matter is the publishing is based over 200%. It's not
There
really
you go.
100%.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, but Shaggy,
It's 200%.
There you go.
yeah, but Shaggy, but you can't, the reality
The
of the situation
100%,
is, Mark,
the 100% dealing with publishers
Publishing,
and
yes.
publishing, right? And the other is with the writers. That's how it works. That's
Yes,
how
but
the
when you-
breakdown
Mark,
works.
Mark.
But what you were saying to make it simple to do it out of 100.
But Mark, when you register a song, guys, when you go to register a song, you're not ready. No more in the world are you registering 200%. We all work at Commonworks registration, and the song has to add up to 100 at the bottom line. Yes, we know there's 100% writer. Yes, we know there's 100% publishing. But when you register
No,
a
they
song,
don't. That's why he's saying
No,
it.
for
No,
the,
I know.
For the
They
sake of
don't know.
understanding,
No.
that's why he said
You're
the
saying
200.
yes, they
Don't-
know,
don't
yes,
complicate
they
it,
know.
Vivian,
They
please,
don't
please,
know.
please,
That's
please,
why
please,
you're
please.
supposed to break it down.
right, but
Let
I'm
them break
Shaggy,
it
I'm
down.
telling you how it is now, right now, today. Right now, today, you have to register a song at 100%.
Okay,
Guys,
Spice,
I'm a
Spice.
23-year publisher. I do this every day. You register a song at 100%. So
do have
what
to
that
register at
means,
100%.
just stop for a second, please, Begano. What that means, if there's a 4-way split right now, her share at 25% is half writer share, 12.5, half to her publishing company, 12.5, and down the line. Do you understand?
That's correct.
So 25 will be split 12.5, 12.5. 25 will be split 20.5, 12.5. This will be 12.5, 12.5. That is how you practically have to register the song.
That's correct.
The song must add to 100%.
But this is only in America and maybe UK.
Yeah, let's not confuse them about Germany. They're in
So,
100.
I think this is a
100%.
prime example. I think this is thank you guys for coming up and for the demonstration.
We cannot
I think-
confuse them with Germany and Europe right now. They don't even know 100%.
I think this is a prime example of how complex this issue can be and why when you get somebody who approaches you with a publishing deal, you should get your team together and begin to understand what all these pieces are.
Yes.
Because we haven't even gotten to the royalty piece yet. That's another complex layer.
Before you move on today, I just wanted to add real quick. I'll let you go in a second.
Go ahead.
But you need your own panel over here. You're going crazy. So really quick, to get more complicated too, I don't know how many of y'all have been watching on TikTok and on social media. There is a bit of controversy going on when it comes to like artists apparently stealing publishing. And so I just want to talk on that because as a manager and all that's actually worked for a legendary artist, I just want to talk toward that because a lot of times it gets looked at negatively and because a lot of times it is, and I think when you do that, it's always negative when you abuse something, right? Like, you can't abuse it, but the process is what it is sometimes. And so, for instance, like, as an A&R for Mary J. Blige, just going in as a new writer or a writer in general, I'm letting you know you walking into the studio and I'm taking 10% for her regardless if she wrote or not. Because you're going in a room with a legend. And after that, your stock goes up. So let's, like, that's not, and people have such an issue with it, but it's like, after you get out the studio with her, you're gonna get in a room with everybody because you get to use her on your, you know what I mean? So it's like,
But
and
Ed, I think you also have to acknowledge that if you're a younger writer and you're walking into that situation, it is the reality, guys, that it happens. I've had that happen to one of my writers, Julie Black. She's a Jamaican artist that's from Canada, Canada's queen of R&B. And I have the click demo that she sent me at 2 in the morning that became the Destiny's Child song. And when that shit went over to Destiny's Child, the amount of extra split up that happens. And I had to say to her, you can have 20% of something or 0% of a lot, right? And so what he's talking about, on top of the layer of what we were just talking about of splits, is something that happens, and yes, it is looked upon as negative, but what I was going to add to what you said is, I think no matter what conversation you're having about splits, whether it's I am Spice and I walk in the room and you're writing the song for me, but I'm going to take a share of it no matter what, because if I didn't sing your song, it wouldn't be popular anyway. Whether you're the producer that has his own side deal with his writers, who maybe he pays them directly, but he gets all the shares. I guess what you should take away from this conversation is there are 50 million ways to split a song. But what does not change, to go back to Shaggy's original question about publishing and understanding what needs to happen, at the end of the day, from a practical perspective, the song must add up to 100. And whether or not you have an outside publisher or you don't have an outside publisher, especially the ones that do not have an outside publisher like myself or Ed or Mark or whatever, that share belongs to you.
So
Period.
Jabari,
Can we-
let me ask you something. Could you
Yeah.
please explain to them the difference between a co-publishing deal and a publishing deal?
Do you mean an admin deal?
Admin deal and a co-pub deal.
That was my question. You want me to take it or you want me to take it?
Jabari,
Okay.
the liar.
Okay. So
But he's not a publisher.
if you want to, well, here's the thing. If my client's going to go into a publishing deal or an admin deal, I'm going to review it and tell them, look, here's what I think. The reality is, what is the publisher providing? Because they're going to give you a chunk of money for your copyrights. Now, we have to do due diligence to see how well you guys are making money for your other clients. If you're not making, and not just money, because we had a whole panel about syncing music. Your team is so important. Let me tell you what's never going to get synced. Things that we can't find split sheets for or contracts for, we ain't syncing that. NBC is going to look at me and be like, bro, move from Yasso, because we can't find it. So if you want an admin deal, I bet your stuff is well buttoned up. I bet you got a whole team. You're probably Beyonce. And then all they're doing is just going and collecting your rights from wherever you are. If it's in the States, your neighboring rights. If you're in Romania, that's what they're doing. But if you want a publishing deal, I think the reality of that situation is that company is going to provide you with a service. That is a service provider. So they should be out there marketing your music for you, selling it in rooms where you can't even speak in, so that it's working. But
the base point of that, though, the base thing you need to understand before you understand the services is to understand one thing. In a co-publishing deal, it's what I was explaining about the house. They're going to buy a piece of your publishing. In the administration deal, they don't own any of your publishing. Right. You continue to own your publishing, and they are doing the administration work, which may not, to Jabari's point, come with some of the extras. In a co-publishing situation, that company is buying a piece of your publishing and therefore need to be paying you appropriately, which your lawyer will help you make a good deal, hopefully. To Shaggy's point, some of them good, some of them bad, but they will hopefully get you a deal that makes sense for the fact that you are selling a piece of your publishing in a co-publishing deal. And what should come with that as part of a co-publishing deal isn't just basics. The point of them owning is that they're invested and they're supposed to put you in situations, meaning they're supposed to help you with getting more songs, like songwriting opportunities. If you're a writer that writes for other people, they're supposed to be helping you getting placements. If you are an artist, they're supposed to help you break as an artist, however that means. They're supposed to be helping you get synchronization, like what Wyclef was talking about. In the case of an admin deal, a lot of times these people that are getting admin deals are already established artists. The Shaggys of the world, the Spices of the world are getting admin deals because their catalog is already monetized, and they don't sometimes need to be selling any of their publishing. But what they do need is someone to do the work properly. But the world we're in right now, and Ed can talk to this as well, is nowadays there are a lot of people who have heard the cries of people like Shaggy that say, watch how you sell your stuff. So what we have is now we have way more admin deals happening than we have ever had before. We're not doing as much buying necessarily and doing co-publishing deals. But what we do is we may have a split of how we get our income that is deeper and looks like a co-publishing deal, right? But in essence, to answer Shaggy's question, co-publishing means co-owned, administration means no ownership.
And
Anyway,
it has to be...
we have it in right now because them say we out of time, and if we need to get out of here to actually get the place set up for the show, we have it in.
Shaggy will say one thing, just so the youngsters, no two contracts are the same, huh? So don't expect like this is a template and everyone, your friend did a contract so mine has to be so. Every single deal is different. And I think
we don't run out of time.
We're out of time.
We're out of time.
Find us outside for questions.
Sorry.
Yeah, we'll answer all your questions outside.
Yeah, you can go up to them and have a conversation one-on-one, but we have to get to the next part because we're out of time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Make some noise to the panelists, everybody, please. Thanks.
I tell you.